Hello, welcome to Biblical Perspectives, Season 2, Episode 7, and we are looking at the three angels' message. This is Frank, I am Chad, and Frank, we are at the very end of the first angel's message. Fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment has come. We covered the fear of God and give glory to Him. We covered the hour of His judgment in the last episode, though maybe ineloquently. And now we are going to look at that last phrasing.
And worship Him.
Worship Him who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and the springs of water. Of all the things, Frank, of why we should worship God, why is it significant that the angel and the message we're supposed to communicate to the world is specifically about God as our creator?
Oh, I think it's highly significant because worship has to do with something that evokes awe, that has an element of reverence, and acknowledges someone who is higher than you, and God is depicted in the Bible from the very beginning as a God who is active as creator.
Mm-hmm.
And that really gives us identity. It leads us to an understanding where we come from, where we belong, and who is responsible for us. And it points us to God, who started everything at the beginning and is the originator of life and of us human beings, for that matter.
So this is the last message given to people in the last days. But as we've seen in the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation is always connecting us back to what has come before. So let's go all the way back to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. And Frank, when you get there, if you'll read that.
1:1.
Yes.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
The word here, created or to create, is the Hebrew verb bara. And it is a word that is used exclusively with the act of God Himself as the subject in the Bible. Now, that's significant because we are living in a world in which many people, including Christians, no longer see the creation act as an act of God Himself. Talk about that and the significance of this as part of this last day message.
Yeah, I think it's highly significant and important. Today, as you know, we live in a society where most people, especially in the educated quarters of society, believe in what is called evolution. That is an understanding of how life originated in this world without divine guidance, without divine intervention. It basically started all by itself and is evolving without direction and without a goal and a purpose. And that is diametrically opposed to what the Bible tells us and is in conflict with so many other biblical teachings that it is amazing that this understanding of evolution really became so important and influential even in Christian circles.
It is shocking, and to me it is especially shocking in the Christian circles because the scriptures are so clear. Because not only is it important for us to understand God as our creator because of just this idea of Him having the authority and the right to be worshiped, the right to be obeyed, just as I give special honor to my parents because they birthed me, and my kids give special honor to myself and my wife because my wife birthed them and I was part of the process. But there's also a connection of God as creator to the redemption of Christ.
Absolutely. And we should not really lose sight of that. If you just think about it, the implications of evolutionary thought on Christian teachings and the biblical teachings on salvation. You know, in the biblical view, you had a perfect creation at the beginning, created by God Himself, and then you had the fall, and you had a process of needing to recreate things that were distorted and put into question through sin and the fall. Now, in evolutionary thought, you have a completely different trajectory. There is no good creation at the beginning. It evolves from the simple, minute organisms and evolves in ever more complex structures and organisms later on. There's a continual improvement, so to speak, of the organisms of life. There is no fall in the evolutionary thought. It's getting better and better and better and better. So now think about this just for a second. You know, if there is no fall in evolutionary thought, then there is no need for a savior. And you hit the aspect of salvation and redemption that is so central to Christian identity and Christian faith right there.
Yes. Well, and even beyond that, the Christian deistic evolution, as we call it, would say that, well, why does it matter how God created, just that there is creation? But we see, if you go with even the theory of deistic evolution, is the idea then God actually becomes the creator of sin, because sin would have entered the world, death would have entered the world prior to sin. Therefore, God is the author of death. This would make God bipolar. His whole existence, I've come to give them life and give them more abundantly. Yes, I authored death at the beginning through the evolutionary process, but now I'm contradicting myself and working against myself.
Yeah, not only that, there's another important aspect. It is connected to the idea of worship that we just read about in that verse. If you think how evolutionary thinking creates life, it is through the deliberate, or it's through the process of death. And it's not just an individual death here and there. It is the elimination of entire population groups in order to
mass extinction.
Mass extinction. Now, if that is the mechanism of God's creation, then the question arises inevitably, is this a God who is worthy of our adoration? Is that a character? Is His character of being willing to have entire population groups being extinct and destroyed? Is that mechanism of wasteful resources really a character trait of God? If that is a character trait of God, if that is His mechanism to create, quote unquote, then the question arises, is this really a good God? Is this really a God worthy of our adoration and worship? And I think it is not.
I would say to those of you that are saying, yeah, but there's all this science to back it, I would say a couple of things. One is go to the website that we'll put on screen, Geoscience Research Institute. They have tons of material that show you that you can correlate science with a biblical worldview on creation.
And actually, I'm quite proud, if I may say that, humbly proud.
Yes, absolutely proud
of our church, you know, and that our church has a whole department, the Geoscience Research Institute, that has qualified top-notch scientists, biologists, you know, and scholars who deal with questions of creation, evolution from a biblical perspective, and provide solid, sound answers and do research at the front lines. I don't know any other church who invests money to do that kind of research that is at the intersection of faith and learning, of faith and science.
One of our very own members, Doug Zinke, is regularly going out to various sites to look at the the stratus of the earth and look at things related to the flood and related to Earth's history. Another thing is I was going to say is there's some great books out there that actually do address this. For instance, like Behe's book, Darwin's Black Box, and we can put an Amazon link in the notes below. But there's
Leonard Brand, one of our
Leonard Brand,
Adventist
yes.
scholars, has written a very nice textbook that is very helpful and could be put also as a resource.
Okay. So we'll share some of those with you just so you can look at the science. I would say this also to all those who say, well, the science shows. No, 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 no. You have faith in what you think the science shows because you weren't there when that happened. I wasn't there when that happened. Both things take faith. The question is, are you going to have the faith in the authority of the scriptures, or are you going to have faith in the interpretation of something else? Because both evolutionary theory and creation theory take faith.
Take faith.
Because we're not there. It's just a matter of where your faith's going to be. Am I going to believe in God's theory or theory of something that happened millions of years ago that we can't fully understand?
Devolution might even needs more faith, if you can say.
It needs more faith. But back to this idea of connecting the Creator and Redeemer. There's a couple of verses I want us to look at. First is Ephesians chapter 3.
Of this gospel I was made a minister according to the gift of God's grace.
Okay, well let me pause right there actually. So the gospel he's speaking of is the promise in Jesus Christ that salvation comes to man. Okay, so keep going.
Which was given me by the working of his power. To me, though I am the very least of all the saints, this grace was given to preach to the Gentiles the unsearchable riches of Christ, and to bring to light for everyone what is the plan of the mystery hidden for ages in God, who created all things.
So here we see a direct connection to Paul saying, this gospel that I'm preaching, the authority of this gospel that is for all people. So the idea that you can be saved, Frank, and that I can be saved, and that the people can be watching and be saved, the authority of this was given to me by the one who created all things.
Yes.
There's this connection there. Then we go to Colossians. If you go to Colossians chapter 1, verses 13 through 17, let me read this. He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him, verse 16, all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. They're not held together because of some evolutionary concept that happened at one point in time or the movement of molecules. Ultimately, it's that God designed them and he continues to hold creation together.
And it also makes clear that God, the God of the Bible who creates things, is not identical to creation. Yeah. So creation and God are two different things. God is the originator of creation, but he is not equated with creation. So that shows that God is distinct. He is worthy of our adoration. He is worthy of our worship, but he is not part of creation, so to speak.
In the Old Testament, we're called to remember God as our creator multiple times in the scriptures. We're called to, in the writings of the psalmists, David writes about acknowledging God as our creator, the stars and the wonder of the earth and you mountains. Job, when he questions God in the book of Job, God's answer back to Job was, did you move this mountain? Did you create this water? Did you do any of these things? He's saying, in other words, you don't even understand creation. How can you understand me, right? Just trust me on this.
And I think there is another aspect that I think is important. If you are the creator of something, let's say you do something, you create something, you make something, and that thing gets lost or gets transported to another person, you have a different attitude, you have a different desire to own that piece again. If you were not involved in that, you might say, well, that's not part of me. That's not part of what I created. But if God is our creator, there is a strong desire in God himself to redeem us who have fallen, separated ourselves from him through sin. If he were not our creator, he would not care as much as he does now. So creation and redemption really belong together.
They connect together. And there's this crazy story in the Old Testament where these two ladies both have babies at the same time, and one lady's baby dies, and the ladies are living in the same house, and so she takes the other lady's baby and like pretends that it's her own, and they go to the king, and the king says, well, we're going to solve this. I'm just going to cut this baby in half and give half of it to one, half of it to the other. Sounds crazy to us, but it made sense in their minds. Like, okay, well, at least then neither of us have babies, the one lady thinks. But the true mother says, no, give her the baby, because she'd rather see her baby live.
She has a different relationship.
She has a different relationship because she birthed that baby. That's the same thing. God has this idea. He has a special invested interest in us living, and this is more intense through the Creator.
Yes.
And we have all these connections of God as our Creator, and then we come to the Apostle Paul is saying, I have the authority to preach on this because the one who created gave me this authority. The reason why we should trust the cross and trust the power of the cross is because it was promised by the one who created all things, and before all things, he existed. And then we come to the three angels' message, and it says, worship him. And it doesn't say worship him who likes you a lot, or worship him who gave you the law, although he did all those things, or worship him who can do miracles. Worship him who made the heavens and the earth and the springs of water.
Yes.
All the way through, this reminder that it's about the Creator. So if I'm Satan, you know what I'm saying to myself? You know what I want to destroy?
What is it?
What I want to destroy is people's faith in God's creative power and work. That's what I want to destroy if I'm Satan. Because everything points to people having trust and authority in God, and trusting and believing in his redemptive power, and trusting and believing that he's going to come back and recreate the earth again by him being the original creator.
And let me just add a little other detail, and we will have time to talk about this later on in a different session. But at the end of this verse 7, it says, worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water. That is actually an echo of the fourth commandment.
Yes, it is.
The fourth commandment is the commandment where God commands us to keep the Sabbath day holy. And he makes reference to creation in the fourth commandment.
Yep.
So here actually the Creator God is connected to the Sabbath day, and the Sabbath day reminds us of creation and what God did in the beginning.
Let me make another statement. If I were Satan, I would want to destroy the one day that reminds us of the Creator. But that's for another episode,
That's for
Frank.
another episode.
We're not going to go there now. In fact, we're going to go there in our next episode. So make sure you come back for our next episode, in which we are going to talk about what Frank just referenced at the end of the three angels' message, this thing called an allusion to the fourth commandment. Don't miss it. And remember, God is your creator. Jesus is your creator. He loves you. He died for you. And all of these things are tied together. God bless. See you next time.